Right now, this digital coin is worth over $60,000.
But the person who created it is completely invisible. No identity, no face. A trillion-dollar empire built by a ghost. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Let's unmask the myth.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into literally the greatest digital whodunit of our time, unraveling the true identity of Bitcoin's creator. It's a massive story, packed with brilliant cryptography, cypherpunk ideals, and a disappearance act that honestly rivals any Hollywood blockbuster. So let's just get right into it.
Picture this. An estimated 1.1 million Bitcoin has been sitting completely untouched in a digital wallet since 2010. Depending on the market on any given day, that fortune is worth roughly $135 billion. That amount of money easily makes the owner one of the absolute wealthiest individuals on the planet. And yet, not a single digital cent has been moved in well over a decade.
I mean, that is an astonishing, unclaimed MacGuffin of wealth. It sets up some incredibly high stakes and really forces us to ask the ultimate question here. Who on earth walks away from over $100 billion? And that brings us to the core mystery of the modern internet. Who exactly is Satoshi Nakamoto? Part 1, Blueprint of a Revolution. To figure out who did this, we first need to examine the scene of the invention, right? The inciting incidents of this whole financial revolution happened incredibly fast. In August 2008, the domain bitcoin.org was quietly registered. Then, just a couple of months later, right on Halloween, a white paper was dropped onto a cryptography mailing list. By January 2009, the software was actually live, the Genesis block was mined, and the very first transaction was sent to a developer named Hal Finney. This kind of speed and execution, it points to a highly dedicated, meticulous inventor. Right at the heart of Satoshi's white paper is this concept called proof of work. Basically, to solve the double spending problem, which is preventing someone from just copying digital code and spending the exact same coin twice, Satoshi required computers on the network to expend actual physical energy. They use CPU time and electricity to scan for a specific hash value. It effectively created this brilliant one CPU, one vote mechanism to verify transactions and secure the entire network. And Satoshi actually laid out the endgame perfectly right in the introduction of the white paper, stating, "What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust." That was it. The entire goal was to totally bypass the need for financial institutions that act as trusted third parties. Satoshi wanted a system where two willing parties could just transact directly with each other, completely protected from fraud by hard mathematical proof. Part 2, the cypherpunk foundations. Now, Satoshi definitely didn't operate in a vacuum here. They assembled this massive puzzle using pieces that were already forged by the cypherpunks, which was this collective of brilliant cryptographers and privacy advocates from the 1990s. Looking at this evidence board, you can clearly see Bitcoin's DNA. You've got Adam Back's Hashcash, which gave us the proof of work algorithm. There's Wei Dai's B-Money, Nick Szabo's BitGold with its proof of work chain, and Hal Finney's reusable proofs of work. Satoshi's true genius wasn't necessarily inventing all these parts from scratch. It was figuring out how they all fit together. Because here's the kicker. While brilliant precursors like B-Money and BitGold existed, they all hit the exact same wall. They lacked a decentralized consensus mechanism to actually agree on a transaction history. They still needed a central coordinator. Bitcoin broke through that by achieving consensus via the longest proof of work chain, which represents the most computational effort. That was the ultimate breakthrough. Part 3. Hunting Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, knowing what was built, let's bring in the lineup of usual suspects. First up, we have one of the most bizarre coincidences in tech history, Hal Finney, the legendary developer who received that very first Bitcoin transaction, bizarrely lived just a few blocks away from a retired systems engineer in California. And that engineer's actual birth name, Dorian Prentice Satoshi Nakamoto. This led some journalists to wonder if Finney was the true creator and just used his neighbor's name as a clever pseudonym. This theory totally exploded in 2014 when Newsweek doxed Dorian. When asked about Bitcoin, Dorian gave this quote, "I am no longer involved in that and I cannot discuss it. It's been turned over to other people." Newsweek printed that as a smoking gun confession. But actually, Dorian thought the reporter was asking about his past classified military engineering work. He later fiercely and officially denied having any connection whatsoever to the cryptocurrency. Then there is Nick Szabo. And honestly, the case for Szabo is incredibly compelling. His BitGold project is undeniably Bitcoin's closest ancestor. Plus, researchers doing stylometric analysis, basically studying the linguistic style of his writing, found that it strongly matches the Bitcoin white paper. He was known to use pseudonyms in the 90s, and in 2015, the New York Times literally named him as their most convincing candidate. But, just like Finney and Dorian Nakamoto, Szabo has firmly rejected the crown. When an author reached out to ask him about it, Szabo just replied, "I'm afraid you got it wrong doxing me as Satoshi, but I'm used to it." Now, while most suspects run away from the title, one man actively fought for it. We have to talk about Craig Wright, who loudly proclaimed himself as Satoshi back in 2015. The problem? His so-called cryptographic evidence was completely, totally debunked by experts. Wright spent years aggressively suing his critics using UK libel laws until finally, in 2024, a UK judge decisively ruled that Craig Wright is absolutely not Satoshi Nakamoto. Yet, despite all the dead ends, the hunt pushes forward even today. People just won't let this go. A 2024 HBO documentary pointed the finger at developer Peter Todd. Then, a 2026 New York Times investigation argued it was Adam Back. And what do they both have in common? Yep, you guessed it. They both categorically, emphatically deny being Satoshi. Part 4. The Power of Anonymity. Back in 2011, Satoshi handed over the source code repository, sent a quick email saying they had moved on to other things, and then just vanished like a ghost. But think about this for a second. This deliberate disappearance might actually be Satoshi's absolute greatest contribution. Let's look back at that first sentence of the white paper. The whole point was removing the need for a central trusted authority figure. If Satoshi had stuck around, they would have become that central figure, a target, a point of failure. By walking away and leaving $135 billion untouched, Satoshi ensured the network remained truly decentralized. Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought about this whole digital whodunit. We've looked at the cypherpunk origins, the ingenious code, and this long list of brilliant suspects who all deny it. But if this invention thrives entirely on mathematical proof and absolute decentralization, does unmasking the creator actually even matter anymore? Or is Bitcoin ultimately stronger precisely because Satoshi Nakamoto is no one and everyone all at once? That's something to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the digital world around you.